I gave this platform to God, okay? I'm on a very specific mission.
We have to identify who the real enemy is. We have to know, where does this infiltration come from? The American people need a warrior that's unafraid to point out the real enemy. The American people are deserving of truth, exposure, and extreme accountability for the crimes against humanity that are being committed. We're on the brink of the complete collapse of America, while at the same time at the precipice of an amazing victory. If we want to prevent our children from facing a future bloodbath, I'm talking mass amounts of bloodshed, we need to step up and fight this war, and we need to fight it now. Uncensored. I refuse to be silenced or muzzled. Unafraid. No man will intimidate me. Unstoppable.
Good evening and welcome to the Stu Peters Show. So we talked to a man called Dave Weiss, a so-called expert on the flat earth theory. We've had other guests on the program. We've talked about the firmament and controlled weather and the worldwide institutional subversion of science that has pigeonholed us into one train of thought, one theory. A theory that's often devoid of fact, but it's forced upon us anyways. But the truth is, no matter what all of the experts and their parrots have to say, no one really knows anything about the inner workings of our planet. And the few who may aren't sharing that information with us. So we're spoon-fed stories of this neatly put together phenomena, this round ball globe Earth, hurling through space at some odd 68,000 miles per hour, while this thing called gravity, which we see defied on a regular basis, somehow manages to hold us all into place and keep us all feeling like we're right side up. We're upright. Even when we're actually hanging off the side of the planet or living upside down. And of course, reinforcing this narrative are these computer-generated images of Earth that are produced by NASA and are supposedly the result of hundreds and thousands of individual pictures all being pieced together and made into this perfect spherical Earth for us all to gawk at and marvel at. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. We're told that all of this is reality and that this has been the accepted line of thinking for hundreds of years, and that before that, people were just stupid. But you know what? None of that is true. It's fake. It's not true at all. You know, less than 100 years ago, there was huge contingents of educated and prominent people who not only believed and thought that they could prove that the Earth was flat, but some of them believed that if it was really of the rounded variety, it would be hollow. One of those people was the famous Admiral Richard Byrd. Byrd dedicated immense stretches of his life to exploring the regions known as the North and South Pole, where he reportedly believed one could access the Earth's interior through a network of real-life rabbit holes, or access new lands on the other side of a massive ice wall that most people know as Antarctica. So before, during, and after World War II, all of the world's major players, from Nazi Germany to the United States and the British Empire and the Soviet Union, they all wanted a piece of Antarctica. And after the war, the United States sponsored Operation High Jump, in which Admiral Byrd led an Antarctic expedition of thousands of American sailors and scientific personnel. But while most of the crewmen never saw the Antarctic interior, a select handful of them did. And it was there that they discovered freshwater lakes, full of warm water, surrounded by over 300 square miles of mountains, free from snow and ice. And while this may contradict everything that you've ever learned in public schools, all of your science teachers, what they told you about Antarctica, it was caught on film. And it was released to the public. Released to the public in a 1948 documentary called The Secret Land. 1948. What an interesting year. The film was backed by the United States Navy and documented firsthand by the Byrd expedition to Antarctica. It wasn't until years later that this information was memory holed, but it still exists. And in this video clip, you can see it for yourself. You can hear the narrator describe the warm water Antarctic oasis that's full of coal and other vital minerals. Watch.
Bunger leans forward in amazement. His eyes have caught a sudden and unbelievable change in scenery. The universal white is turned to chocolate brown, dotted with blue. A cameraman goes into action. 300 square miles of land without snow. land that might be in New Mexico or Arizona. Pictures alone will prove Bunger has discovered a warm oasis in the shadow of the pole. It is for such supreme moments as this that men brave the hardships of exploration. The astounding, undreamed of fact is that they are over a chain of warm water lakes, whose shores, except for small patches, are free of ice and he comes in to make a landing. Water temperatures must be recorded. Samples taken. He finds the water fresh, the temperature 38 degrees Fahrenheit. On the shores are vast deposits of coal and of minerals of the utmost importance to civilization.
So that actually happened. And the United States government admitted it. So now the question is, what else did they find? There's been reports that in this secret diary kept by Admiral Richard Byrd, he described a lush green region of Antarctica. He called it the other side of Antarctica. He said that it was beyond a massive ice wall. There's been claims which have been reported by mainstream outlets like the History Channel that Byrd said that he encountered some type of advanced civilization during his time at our so-called South Pole. But what we do know for sure is that the years after Operation High Jump, Admiral Byrd went on live TV and described a massive untouched region on the other side of Antarctica and its ice wall. He said that it's at least the size of the United States and that it's full of the world's most sought-after minerals. Take a look.
Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
Well, that's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Admiral,
We've found enough of coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
well,
That's the coal. Now, there's evidence of many other minerals. We're pretty sure there's oil. Now, that coal shows the bottom of the world. Now, by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the winter.
well,
It was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there.
is it?
You know, it's pretty obvious. There are many things that we just don't know, that we aren't allowed to know about Antarctica. And it's worth noting that even if you wanted to start looking into it and you had the financial capability and the resources to start looking into it, you could only do so much research because you're not allowed to investigate Antarctica firsthand. No, treaties signed by countries from all over the planet bar private exploration of Antarctica and anywhere remotely close to it. Why? The question here is obvious. What are they hiding? What the hell is going on in Antarctica? Frankie Stocks has been asking the same questions on X, doing some research and reporting on this on his own, and he joins us now. Frankie, so is it flat?
You know, Stu, I am not ashamed to say that I'm leaning toward the possibility that Antarctica is the massive ice wall that it was hypothesized to be for generations of explorative-minded humans before we just settled on this neat little idea that it's some kind of useless continent stuck on the bottom of the world. You know, there's more questions than answers by far about Antarctica. You know, if you listen to Admiral Byrd talk, it's like it is an ice wall. It sounds like there is more land beyond this. You know, to me, that would mean that it's probably flat. You know, or something that we would consider to be flat while looking at it. You know, a big disc, something like that. You know, and even if it's not, what are they hiding? Now, at this point, man, I'm open to any possibility about this place. You know, I started posting about this on X, and immediately I start getting hounded by people ridiculing you for asking questions or for actually looking back into our own country's historical archives and saying, what did our government, what did our military find at this place, and why aren't we allowed to know about it? What were the Germans interested in Antarctica for? In the 1930s, they wanted to get there. There was a race to get there and start building permanent settlements in Antarctica. The Germans were dropping thousands of swastikas out of airplanes as if they were dropping bombs, but they were doing it to mark off territory. So the biggest governments, the most prominent people on Earth, they all wanted a piece of this place. And they've gone a long way to discredit Admiral Richard Byrd, his own library that is named after him, because this guy was also going to the North Pole, looking probably for the same thing, for additional land, for an additional civilization, something of that sort. The own Richard Byrd library has tried to discredit him and say that he never actually made it to the North Pole. They call him a liar. His family vehemently defends him. They say that he's not a liar, that he did make it there. But what is the motive for after decades and decades and decades to start saying that he never actually made it there? Is it because what he found is not consistent with what we've been told is there? And so the North and the South Pole, or as they're called, it's really the same story of secrecy at both. But I think that the possibility that Admiral Byrd found this additional land that he spoke of on TV, as you mentioned there, in Antarctica is very great. And that's, you can get to the North Pole. There's business conducted around the so-called North Pole, but not in Antarctica, unless you are a government hand-selected guy to go down there and get to see what they want you to see.
Are there any pictures from outer space?
Not that I know of. Just the other day.
So wait,
NASA
hold on. I just want to clarify here. So we have an international space station. We purportedly have hundreds, if not thousands, of satellites just hurling through space. We have some of the most advanced photographic technology known to man. We have astronauts, right? We've landed on the moon. Nobody has ever taken a picture. Nobody that's traveled beyond the atmosphere, through the stratosphere, into space. Nobody's ever pulled out their smartphone or a camera and just taken a picture from the International Space Station or from the moon or from a satellite.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? I've never seen a picture that I hadn't later learned was CGI. So you're right. Where are all the, we can get all these cutesy little videos from inside the supposed International Space Station of these astronauts making calls. Why can't we get a pic out the window of our home planet? It doesn't make any sense. Just the other day, NASA released this ridiculous computer-generated, what they called a video of a black hole. I mean, it was comical. It's just these lines swooshing around the screen, and then it goes away. And then, oh yes, this is real life. This is a real black hole. Never mind that we're telling you straight up it's made by CGI. Millions of people are now in the belief that this is real. I mean, it's a psyop really of epic proportions. And I do believe, Stu, that a lot of this space stuff is meant to take our eyes off of our home planet of Earth. Why can we not look inwards? We can't even get to the bottom of the ocean. We have no idea what's in Antarctica. We're not allowed to go find out. So why all the fuss about space? Why we're on this goose chase to supposedly find some other planet that contains water that humanoids could live on? It's completely ridiculous. And the amount of time that it would take us to get there, I mean, just like a light year, it takes it's like 5 million miles away. It's completely ridiculous. I saw some statistics the other day. If someone were to travel a light year with our current technology, they'd be sitting in a space capsule for 25,000 years. So none of this even makes sense. It's a psyop, plain and simple, to keep our eyes off of looking inwards. There's something going on here on Earth.
This supposed moon landing, wasn't there footage of a green screen that was actually used?
Yes. There's a cord in the background. It's the entire thing reeks of a Hollywood studio setup, and it never made sense to me. I in 2024 can pick up the phone and call parents on the other side of Virginia and the call drops, but these guys were on a phone from the moon with the president on live TV. It's a joke.
Yeah, I've got questions about the way that we spin as well. So we're hurling I believe it's like some odd 68,000 miles per hour through this universe, right? With millions of other planets and stars and moons and all of these things. And then we're spinning on an axis at the same time. I believe it's 1,080 miles per hour, I believe, is what a Google search, right? Really reliable information there. 1,080 miles per hour, I believe, is what we're spinning at. So if I'm flying on an aircraft at 550 miles per hour and I'm going from Minneapolis to, Orlando, Florida, how will I ever catch up? Or am I waiting then for Orlando to catch up to me? And then wouldn't that take 24 hours for that to happen? Am I just hovering? How does this work?
I have no idea. The hovering. That's exactly what was going through my mind. Is what are you doing? Are you hovering there and you're waiting for Orlando to come show up? It's no one has been able to explain this to us. And if you start asking questions about it, that just deride it as some kind of conspiracy nut or some kind of idiot, who's denying science.
Oh yeah, they're telling me in my ear right now that I'm an idiot and that it's the entire atmosphere you see that's also spinning at 1,080 miles per hour. So you're not really flying at 550. You're actually flying and then somehow being whisked along with this spinning atmosphere. This object, this aircraft, is then being apparently grabbed by the atmosphere, and then so you're actually going 1,580 miles per hour. It's really, that's pretty advanced.
Yeah, and it's amazing because the scientific, just the science in general, you're supposed to be able to open up to question. There's very specific issues that we're not allowed to question, and this is one of them. And we haven't been allowed to for 500 years, 600 years. So what is at play here?
I was always told that wind is created by the uneven heating of the Earth's surface. That's what creates wind. Wouldn't it? It would be a pretty windy day, I would think, if we were traveling at 68,000 miles per hour and spinning at 1,080. I would believe. How does the water stick? How do we have calm days on the lake?
Yeah, shouldn't the water be all about to just run out of the side of the lake? Or get blown all into oblivion? It's when you start looking into it, we shouldn't be sitting still, I guess, at any time at all. And no one has ever been able to satisfactorily explain to me how you could theoretically go from the North Pole on around Earth, from the North Pole to the South Pole, and not be hanging off of it, or not have some kind of change in the relativity of how you're perceiving things. People say this all the time. You go up into airplanes. There's flat as far as I can see. Wouldn't you imagine that there was some kind of curvature that you would see after a certain period of time?
I'm told that the curvature changes every 55 meters. That's what we're told to believe, every 55 meters. So that brings another question is, aside from the fact that when you're on an airplane and you take off, you feel that, right? When you're on a roller coaster and you drop, if you change altitude in an elevator, a slow-moving elevator, you feel it in your stomach. It's hard to explain, but everybody knows what I'm talking about, what that feeling is. When you descend in an airplane and you start your initial descent, even an altitude shift of just a couple hundred feet, you feel that drop, right? So if the Earth is curving every 55 meters, and I'm traveling, let's just say again, from Minneapolis to Florida, 1,300 and some odd miles, that's a long flight. That's a long distance to cover. But I don't have to adjust. The plane doesn't have to adjust its altitude to stay at its cruising altitude of 32,000 feet, for example. The pilot, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be cruising at 32,000 feet. All this. Now, I think they all go to voice school as well because they all sound the same. But then I don't have to continuously descend to stay at that 32,000 feet. If it's this ball and I'm flying here, wouldn't I just, my altitude would just continue to get greater, wouldn't it? My distance between the Earth and the aircraft would continue to increase, I would think. They're telling me again, no, that I'm an idiot because the whole thing is, the plane is inside of the snow globe as well. So it's ridiculous. Here's what I do know. NASA is full of everything that we've ever been told by these people is a lie, I'm not committing to saying, hey, I think it's flat, because I don't know. I just want to ask the question, and you're right. I can say anything on the internet, but as soon as I take to X and I say, hey, if it changes every 55 meters, then why can I see that boat out there through this, binocular or monocular? Why can I see that at all of these miles away? Why, when I'm in the aircraft, does it look pretty flat? Why isn't it wavy and windy constantly? If you ask any of this, or even just say, looks pretty flat to me, people just come unglued. They can't fathom that from this young age, when you walk into the classroom, the first thing that every teacher has on their desk is this globe. And you're not allowed to question that, because if they grab control of you like that at that age, they own you for the rest of your life. 1 minute left. Final words here.
Yeah, they do own the rest of your life, too. Really, at the core of this is that we all have to come to accept that everything that we've been told for our entire lives by our government-funded schools, our run schools, about this entire world around us is all fake. And until it's proven, it's all just a theory. You know, it is anti-science that we're not allowed to ask questions about this. And when I think about this kind of stuff, it takes me back to this saying you used to hear out of guys back in 70s movies, free your mind and your follow. And that's what the global ruling class is terrified of. We free our minds and our follow away from them, away from their system, and away from this big charade, and we take ourselves to the next level of our existence. And it's everything is groomed for us to just accept it as little drones, go straight forward, and we can't have it.
Everything that we've ever seen, our entire world, is built on propaganda and fake images and computer-generated images and lies. Frankie Stocks, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Stu.